Namaskar. Today we are once again here with the fifth day of National Education Policy 2020. I am delighted to welcome all the esteemed participants to this webinar. One defining feature of the new education policy is its focus on promotion of Indian languages, art and culture. NEP recognizes that India is a treasure house of languages, art and culture, which developed over thousands of years and manifested in the form of arts, work of literature, customs, traditions, artifacts, heritage sites, and more. It is through the knowledge of our own cultural history, art, languages, and traditions that we can build a positive cultural identity and self esteem. To have more insight on this, we have with us Dr. S. Raji to speak on this very relevant theme, Indian knowledge system, art and culture. Dr. S. Raji is a graduate in civil engineering from LD College of Engineering, Ahmedabad, Gujarat University, and completed her ME in Construction Technology and Management from NITTTR, Chandigarh. She has received her PhD degree in civil engineering from Pondicherry University during 2019. She has over 2.5 decades of teaching experience in Debre. She has undergone various training and certification programs, some of which are competency based curricula, highway material testing, foreign fellowship in Leipzig, Germany, socio-economic survey for community development, micro teaching and instruction design, human values for holistic development, green building rating system, socio-economic impact of technology in industry, 3D printing technology, training for innovation ambassadors by Institute Innovation Council, Ministry of Education. Some of the important projects undertaken by her are traffic bulletin for Port Blair roads, level of service and impact of mass transport system, capacity analysis of roads for State Transport Authority, Andaman and Nicobar Administration, green building project for Debrade Campus, Island Water Resource Research Center IWRRC for GIS based water resource mapping and finding potential water resources in rural areas of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. She has published more than 8 papers, which includes UGC journals and others. She has also presented research papers in national and international seminars and conferences. Her area of interest are human value, traffic engineering, Vastu Shastra, Indian tradition and heritage, Indian music and art form. Dr. S. Raji.
Namaskar. Thank you, Alka ma'am, for this introduction. At the onset, I'm thankful to the IQAC cell of my institute and Andaman Nicobar administration for giving me this opportunity to discuss the components of National Education Policy 2020. I request all the participants to encourage and listen the sessions and also participate in the topics so that we collectively learn what are these components and how they are important for National Education Policy 2020. As my colleagues in the last few days have deliberated and discussed in many components of National Education Policy 2020, so today we will be seeing a very different component, that is Indian knowledge system, language, art and culture. The topic Indian knowledge system actually comes from Indian knowledge tradition. So I will be going by art and culture first, then we will link it with the language, and then we will come to Indian knowledge system. As we all know that Indian knowledge system is deeply rooted and founded by the Indian knowledge tradition. So Indian knowledge system is called IKS and Indian knowledge tradition is called IKT. What is the difference between IKS and IKT? As we know, that tradition is something which is coming from thousands of years, unbreakable, continuous, without any change, it is followed from communities to communities. Now, this is a part of a civilization. Now, this civilization goes back to the ancient Vedic civilization of India. The tradition which is penned down or which is written in scripts as Shastras becomes Indian knowledge system. So today we will be seeing what are the Indian knowledge system Shastras which has come from Indian knowledge tradition and how it is important for India in the modern era for a holistic development. So we have to go a little bit into the ancient education system of India. From the time of Rigveda onwards, our ancient education system evolved over the period and focused on the holistic development of the individual by taking care of both the inner and the outer self. So that is why this word of holistic development is coming again and again in all the sessions. And it has a integral what we call objective or aim in the NEP that a child entering into the education system should have a holistic development, because the child should not only have the education as a part of a knowledge which he or she is going to gain, but also the inner as well as the outer development, so that he or she can contribute in the development of society, nation, and humanity as a whole. The system focused, that is the ancient system, focused mainly on the moral, physical, spiritual, and intellectual aspects of life. It emphasized on values such as humility, truthfulness, discipline, self reliance, and respect for all creations. Students were taught to appreciate the balance between human beings and nature. Now we are talking about the global warming. Now we are talking about the various problems in nature which we have created because of the resources exhaustion. Now that was there already in our ancient system, that how we have to balance between the nature and the resources and the education which we are taking. So in the ancient system, students were taught to appreciate the balance between human beings and nature. Teaching and learning followed the tenets of Vedas and Upanishads, fulfilling duties towards self, family, and society, thus encompassing all aspects of life. Education system focused both on learning and physical development. So it is not only the body or mind, it is the synchronization of body and mind which can give the best of any individual according to the potential. So education system focused both on learning and physical development. As I said, in the physical development, if it is towards the games or gymnast or any other part in which the person becomes to have a physical strength, then it has to go with the mental mind or the mental strength also. In other words, the emphasis was on healthy mind and healthy body. You can see that education in India has a heritage of being pragmatic, achievable, and complementary to life. Complementary to life is a very important word, because happiness is because only when you get that thing or the potential which you can be used or which you can think it can be developed or it can be performed to the fullest. So that is one thing which we will be seeing today's topic. It is little interesting in way that we have to see that how these ancient knowledge centers were developed and how these centers had become the universities of the world, and where the scholars and the students used to come from various parts of the world. So we will see that what were the subjects which were taught in these ancient centers. Yeah, you can see that in the ancient centers, these were the gurukulas, these were the virahas, or these were the patshalas, where in the gurukul system, the student enters in the gurukul system as a family member, and he or she remains with the guru for throughout his life, at least till the age of 18 or 17, and then he or she is going to learn what are the various subjects which he will be learning, which includes the sources of learning include history, which is used to be called as Itihas and Vishiki, and then Anvishiki is logic. Nowadays we see that what are the various logic which we use for software development, or the logic which we apply for innovation. Then comes the Mimamsa, that is interpretation. Very beautifully it has been indicated in the Shastras that Mimamsa or the interpretation is the interdisciplinary understanding of the techniques and the technologies, or the relations of the interdiscipline technology, so that the student or the child can learn that how one technology or one subject can be applicable to the other. Then comes the Shilpa Shastra, that is architecture, we all know. Then Yoga Sadhana, that is the training mind and body. Training mind and body is nowadays what we say is that overall what you call development or the self development, all these things which we are using in a modern jargons in the management institutes and other parts. So that was already there in the ancient education system. Then Dhanurvidya and Krida. Dhanurvidya and Krida is archery and games. Archery doesn't mean that you will have only one type of what we call um, Vidya of archery, or this is Dhanur Vidya doesn't mean that is only Dhanush and Ban. It means all the types of Shastra or Astra which you should be knowing for your self defense. Self defense doesn't mean that you're going to fight all the time. This is all that you're ready for the society, you're ready for the nation. So that was that Dhanur Vidya and Krida. Then they had this Varta. This is a very important thing, very interesting. That Varta was agriculture, trade, animal husbandry. Nowadays, we talk about green building, green campus, in which we see and in which we say that the students or the children or the society or the higher education institute, the students should be taught that what is the native plan, how we should be saving the biodiversity. This was already there in Varta, in which the agriculture, trade, and animal husbandry, that is a livestock, that means the animal, what they call community, how it has to be what they call saved, and it has to be nurtured in a particular area according to the climate and according to their biodiversity. Then Arthashastra, of course, the politics and the strategies for ruling and administration. Then Shilpa Shastra, that is the architecture. Then these were actually developed, rendered in various universities. The knowledge centers were created, and these universities slowly became a very big international centers. The scholars from around the world used to come to these centers. Some of the universities include, as you all know, that is Takshashila. Then next is Vikramashila. Then Vallabhi. Then Somapura. Then Pushpagiri, Odantapuri, Jagadalla, and the last, not but the least, everybody knows this Nalanda. These education centers and universities had a lot of research work done, which used to be called as Anusandhan. And because of this research work and the gurus who were there in this particular universities, the scholars from all over the world used to come, and they used to dwell and they used to learn from these universities. But unfortunately, when the invaders came into India from the western side, they targeted first these universities. And according to one of the British historian, the Nalanda University, when an invader was attacking Assam, the Nalanda University library was burnt, and it was very surprising, and it was written down in the history by a British historian that the Nalanda University burned for 3 months. So if it is burned for 3 months, that means how many books would have been there? So all these shastras in the Indian knowledge system, all these shastras which was created, that means from the tradition, what was written down as shastras were all destroyed with the invasion and the destruction of these universities. Now, further centers includes, as I said, Odantapuri was in Bihar. It is for the information of the participants, and Somapura was in Bangladesh from Gupta period. Jagadalla in Bengal, as all of you know. Nagarjunakonda was in Andhra Pradesh. These were not included in my presentation, but for the information of the participants, I would like to say that. Then Vikramashila, we have included in that. Then the Sharda Peeth in modern day Kashmir, Vallabhi in Gujarat, and then Varanasi, of course, Kashi, as we all know, Banaras in Uttar Pradesh, and then Kanchipuram in Tamil Nadu, Manyakheta in Karnataka, Pushpagiri in Orissa, and of course Ratnagiri again in Orissa, and one of the university which was called as Sunitra Devi Pirivena. It was a center of Buddhist learning in Sri Lanka. These all universities were existing in undivided India during the Vedic system, and during this what do you call 1415 AD, when these invaders came and they just attacked India, at that time they got destroyed, and with that, the Indian knowledge system also had hampered the what do you call the proof which they had for all these shastras from the Indian knowledge tradition. Now, before we enter into the Indian knowledge system, how it is important to NEP, I would like to now go into the thinking why these shastras were important. Kala. That's what, as I said in the beginning, we will see that how this has been synchronized and connected with each other, the Kala language and the Indian knowledge system. Till now, we saw that in Indian knowledge system, the Shastras were there according to the tradition which was followed. Now we see that how we are going back to this tradition. This question arises, why we are going back to this tradition. We all know that there were so many civilizations in this very civilization, which was previously Vedic civilization. We had this Greek civilization, we had this Egyptian civilization, and so many other civilizations. all these civilizations got deteriorated, their traditions got deteriorated, and their knowledge system was not penned down or scripted anywhere. But this Vedic traditions or the civilization or Indus Valley civilization traditions are still there. As I said in the beginning, traditions are the processes which are coming from centuries in an unstoppable manner, in an unchanged manner. So when these traditions are still there, that means this tradition has the potential to develop the humanity. So that's why we are going back to our ancient system, and then we are finding what were these traditions and what were these subjects which has given the proficiency that India used to know the knowledge center in the world. So in that, what do you call, in that rendering or in that prayas, we are just thinking that how we will be reviving these kalas, or we will be reviving these art forms. Before I go to this topic, there was a Shastra called Natya Shastra. According to the Vedic Sanskriti, or according to the Vedic history, Natya Shastra has got all the kalas. As it is, you can see in the screen, Kala, fine arts, Kam Sukham Latiti Kala. That which makes people happy is a form of art. Art is innate to human being. आपको जो प्रसन्नता देती है वही कला है. आप जिस प्रक्रिया से या जिस भाव से आप खुश होते हो या प्रसन्न होते हो और या आप दूसरों को प्रसन्न करते हो, वही कला है. जब हम कला की बात करते हैं तो हमारे मस्तिष्क में और हमारे मन, दिलो दिमाग में एक ही बात आती है कि कला मतलब नाट्य या संगीत या नृत्य. लेकिन कला खाली वही नहीं है. शास्त्रों के हिसाब से हमारे नाट्य शास्त्र में 64 कलाएं बोली हैं और 14 विद्याएं बताई हैं. Now 64 kalas. Now these kalas, as I said, that which makes people happy is a form of art. So kala in which you will be entertaining yourself and you will be entertaining others. Now these kalas were the skills which gives the proficiency and competency to any students when he or she comes out of the university to serve the society in his own form, happily, and also to entertain others and contribute to the economy. There are 64 kalas which I will not be able to cover in this session, but I have taken few kalas which are very interesting and which has really taken so many modern forms, and I think the economy generated through these kalas in this today's era is immense. So it will really attract the new generation that where these kalas were coming from and how it has been originated. Let us see some of the kalas. This is Pushpastaranam. This is making flower beds in houses and in temple for deities. Now, at that time, because the population was less and the building technology was not as it used to be, but all the thing what we learn today in landscaping goes back to this color. How the gardening has to be done, how the decorations has to be done, and how which flowers in which season has to be grown in which landscape and in which terrain and according to the atmosphere or according to the climate was there in this color. Then next comes Pattika Vitravana Vikalpa. This is, you can see that handicraft from the natural objects, the dried objects like cane, bamboo, which is used for the household matter, which nowadays we are seldom using this for the household uses. We are using it for the decorative purpose, but it gave livelihood to so many. Still, it is giving livelihood to so many in Northeast area or in the region of the tribal area where these products are available in abundance. Now, this is the Vriksha Yurveda Yoga. Very interestingly, this color, as I said in the earlier slide, the green building concept which we are talking now, in which we always give that then the rating system, the green building rating system, as we have got one green building in our campus also, in the rating system, a substantial amount of, substantial point is given, or it is an essential point, mandatory requirement that you grow native varieties. Native varieties of plants, native varieties of trees should be there in your green campus. Why is this native variety? Because there are two reasons. Native variety, when you're growing the native variety, it will preserve and conserve the biodiversity, first thing. Secondly, the native variety will not require so much of irrigation. So you will preserve the water also. So that is the science behind it, but it was always already there in this particular kala. In this kala, knowledge of laying garden, orchard, making hybrids, remedy for diseases, etc. So this was having the connection of Ayurveda also. Now here in ICMR and CARI, they have done so many research in which we come to know that there are so many medicinal plants in Andaman Nicobar Islands, but we are not aware of it because there is no pooling of data where we can find these informations, and so that we can grow these native varieties, or we can encourage the younger generation to know about the utility of it, so that we have got a very healthy life and a healthy way of life also. Next kala is Panaga Rasa Raga Sava Yojana. Panaga, according to Sanskrit, Panaga is something in which water is sweet because of the jaggery. That is nothing but the modern sharbat. And the fermentation of this panaga will give you what you call in nowadays cocktails. So this is already there, which is a very famous and which is a very growing industry in the restaurant industry or in the eatable industry or in the hotel industry. So these cocktails were made at that time, and these were also one of the color. That's why I said I have chosen very few colors which have got a very good economic impact in the industry, or economic impact on which can become or which is actually in the modern form is very famous or very popular among the younger generations. Now, this is one, Gandha Yukti. You can see the photograph from this itself. I leave this Gandha Yukti to my participants of this particular session. We will be discussing at the end what is this Gandha Yukti is all about. And I would like to see in the chat box that people should participate without looking into the Google search. Please, with this photographs itself, you can just find out, or you can just guess that what is this Gandha Yukti, which was there in our Shastras. I'll just go forward with few more colors. For the information of the participants, all these 64 colors you can see from one of the videos which has been given by UGC under the scheme of this Pathshala. So you can, because I have not covered all the 64 colors, so you can go and see the video in this particular Pathshala program, and then you can check that what are the other colors, because they are very interesting colors. Except मतलब when we talk about कला, हमें ऐसा लगता है कि खाली ये नृत्य या संगीत वाद्य या फिर सजना सवरना यही कला है। इसके सिवा जो कला है, जो लोगों को जो है जीविका का माध्यम देता है, वो भी कला है। उन कलाओं के बारे में और भी कलाओं के बारे में अगर आपको जानना है, तो आप ये पाठशाला में जाकर देख सकते हैं। ये MHRD UGC का ही एक कार्यक्रम है। इसमें से आप और बाकी कलाओं के बारे में जान सकते हैं। मैंने यहाँ पे बहुत कम कलाओं के बारे में लिया है कि जो जीविका के लिए बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है, या फिर जो आजकल के मॉडर्न टेक्नोलॉजी के हिसाब से बहुत महँगे व्हाट सर्विसेज हैं, और जो कि उन दिनों में वो कलाओं में थी, और हम धीरे-धीरे उनको अपने परंपरा से हटा चुके थे, और अभी हम इन कलाओं को we are taking it from our foreign universities or from the foreign area because it was already there. So that is why NEP is giving so much of emphasis on these kalas and how it is connected with Indian knowledge system, that we will be discussing in the coming slides. Now, next kala which I have taken is Mani Bhumika Karma. Now, this is the arrangement of tiles. Arrangement of tiles in a artistic manner, so that the material which is used in the tiles should be giving a very cool effect to the flooring. So this is also one color, very advanced form of masonry, I must say. Aindrajala, this is magic, mystery. This is also one color. Many of people just love to do this magic. They love to do magic for their own happiness. They love to do magic to entertain others. Then this is Vikchara Sakshya Bhaksha Vikara Kriya. If you can read the content, preparation of cooked and uncooked food, which are fourfold, namely Bhojya, Bhakshya, Lehya, and Peya. Cooked and uncooked. With the health consciousness, everybody talk about the varieties of salads. Everybody talks about organic food. So cooked and uncooked food, it doesn't mean that it has been given by something, by the technology, or it has been founded suddenly. It was already there. And in the Shastra or in this art, it has been already written that when you should be having the cooked food, when you should be having the uncooked food, which are the climate or which are the seasons meant for cooked food, or which are the timing on the day meant for the cooked or uncooked food, these all things are there. And this is what is the modern health food system or health technology, or this is the health nutrition or the nutrition industry. Everything is based on this particular color. Then this Akshara Mustika Kathanam. This is nothing but the coding of the language. We talk about so many things, the code language and so many things in the military system, or in what they call in normal text also. For the for our own entertainment we do this. So this art of writing cipher and deciphering was already there as a kala. Then nimitta gyan. I would like to quote, or I would like to mention, not quote, I would like to mention Paulo Coelho's a very famous writer, Paulo Coelho's what do you call novel on Alchemist. In that novel, Paulo Coelho says that you have to understand from the indication of the nature that what is going to happen in future. So that is a prediction, science of prediction. That book is a very well-known book. Many of you might have heard and learned about it and might have read it also. So in that, a particular person who has got a journey to find the pyramid of gold, he sees that what they call indications from the nature, and then he understands that what is going to happen next. So that is the prediction. This is already there as a kala. So this is a nimitta jnana. How you predict from the shagun. And sometimes people says this is a superstition. This is the mythological superstition that how can you just predict like this, and you can say that what is going to happen. It is not the very intent thing which you are going to. This is just a basic calculations which will give you an idea how you have to react and how you have to act for the particular situation. It is not telling that what is going to happen next, or tomorrow it is a going to happen that you're going to die, or you tomorrow you're going to live, or you tomorrow you're going to have a lottery type of a thing. It's not like that. It's that how you are going to predict the situation. Accordingly you can what do you call train your mind, and accordingly you can train your thought process to react or to respond that particular situation. So astrology and all these things came from this particular kala. Then yantra matraka. We didn't have technology or machinery at that time, but we had these mechanisms. This mechanisms either by animal pulled or the manual pulled was there, but then mechanism was there. And they used to draw water from the well, as Rehet we used to call. All these mechanism was there. That was also one of the kala. Now this is a very interesting kala, Vastra Gopanani. As it can be seen, wearing the clothes tactfully so that it doesn't slip off, and also the torn places are hidden. मतलब फटे हुए कपड़े हो, उसको इस तरह से पहनना कि वो फटा हुआ ना लगे, और एट द सेम टाइम वो बहुत सुंदर भी लगे. My respected colleagues or my respected friends in the fashion industry will agree with that कि this is also one kala which has come from these shastras. So in the modern era, the younger generation can understand that these all kalas were there, and we have to dwell into our history, we have to dwell into our ancient education system to know that how and what are the factors, what are the concepts, what are the characteristics of these kalas, which has come up into a very what do you call economy driven, or economy contributing fashion technology or industry. Now the fashion technology and the textile industry is a very important industry contributing to the economy. So these are the kalas which was already there, and these kalas had all these basics which is followed in the new industry now. Now this is a Chalitaka Yoga. The last you can see that in the down. This is nothing but the modern tattoo. Now these kalas were further distributed into urban area, rural area, and the tribal area. That doesn't mean that the tribal area kala will not be used by the modern of this thing. Now you can see that how the tattooing is so common, and it has become so famous, and it is so costly also. So we think this has something coming from Western. We already had this in our shastras. So as I said again, I said earlier, I'm also again telling that Natya Shastra says that any kala which is there in the world is there in the Natya Shastra. Any kala which is nowhere there in the world will not be there in Natya Shastra. So Natya Shastra has got all these kalas which will give you the skill and the competency to become a professional, or at the same time you can become happy and you can make others also happy. Now this is very interesting, art of courtesy. That is विनय की. आप विनम्रता से किस तरह किससे बातें करोगे, आपको विनम्रता से किस तरह बातें करनी चाहिए, जो कि आजकल हम लोग सॉफ्ट स्किल के रूप में पढ़ते हैं. ये ऑलरेडी एक कला है, और ये कला हमारे शास्त्रों में थी, जो गुरुकुल सिस्टम का बहुत ही अभिन्न अंग था. व्यायामिकी, the gymnasiums, the gymnastics and gyms, yoga, which has, I'm not going into this because everybody knows what is the importance of it nowadays. Then this is Maniragakara Jnanam, enameling sphericomony, and the knowledge of mineral deposits from the surface. The modern geology comes from this color. That which mineral deposits is available in which place and how you can utilize that mineral for various purposes. You can see that the gemstones and the minerals which are used for making and designing these what they call ornaments, how this can become an industry and how this kala can give the skill to dwell into life and to become successful in the life as a particular person, if he or she is interested in this, can grow in this particular color. Then comes the Vaijaki. There is an art of victory. Art of victory doesn't mean that you are proficient as a soldier. Art of victory is that how you have to train your thought process so that you always see success in whatever you think you do. Now, that art of success is nowadays a modern motivational speaker, motivational courses, what we do, the management development program, all these things. These are actually combination of this Vinayaki or Vyayamiki or Vijayaki. So these all kalas were already existing in the Natya Shastra. In addition to that, I would like to name few more thing. Natya Vachana. Nowadays, I see that if you cannot have time to read the book, you can hear the book. There is a talking book also. That Natya Vachana, how you get the emotion into that literary concept and then how you do that, that is also one kala which was already there. Then Prahelika, the riddles. Then Samasya Purti, solutions, finding solutions, that was also one of the kala. And then Gandha Yukti, as I was mentioning that at the end of the session we will see what is that Gandha Yukti and then we will come back to it. Now going back to it and going back to the topic of the session, after the kala we come to the languages. As we all know that from the Vedic Sanskriti or the Vedic time, Sanskrit is an important factor for our culture and our heritage, because all these shastras have been written in Sanskrit. So that is a Vedic language, that is a traditional language, and most of the Indian language are based on this Sanskrit only. So multilingualism, a power of language. As we all know, languages have a spatial journey and they move as people move. I think 2 decades back, we wouldn't have found people speaking Hindi in the southern India. Similarly, we wouldn't have known the Tamil jargons or the Tamil songs so popular in the northern India. Of course, the social media has played its important role in that. But as the people move from one place to other place, they take their language, they take their tradition also to other place. This is what is required. Because, as I said, during the destruction of those ancient universities, which was spread across India, all those shastras which got destroyed had some roots in some of the parts in various parts of India. And those skills and those kalas, which was an inherent part of that community and the society, remained there. Now, because of the language barrier, it could not be booked or it could not be scripted. If we see the principal languages of India, you can see that the spread that in the most of the part you can see Hindi and Urdu. Malayalam in the southern area and Andaman Nicobar Islands, you can see that is Hindi, Nicobarese, Malayalam, Tamil, Bengali, and Telugu. The diversity is more in our island. In most of the places, the diversity is not there. Their core language is more important there. That is why NEP says that the 3 language system is important, because if a child gets into the school, he or she should be knowing the mother tongue, and the other 2 languages one language should be the native language of India, which according to the 8th schedule of the constitution, and the third language is the choice of this child. Now, if he or she, when enters the education systems, and then if he or she is learning the language, then he or she will be able to learn the shastras of that particular community from one place to other place according to his interest. And then he can get the competency and the skill for a better livelihood. In a published journal, Dutt and Devgan Noble had said, every language has a core and a periphery. Core is the core grammar of that particular, and a periphery in which it will be used as a slang. Core regions where people use mother tongue. Hindi language has a core and a sphere of influence on all Hindi speaking states. India's linguistic diversity is high at the national level, but at the district level, few districts has high diversity. For example, Bengaluru being the capital of Karnataka has got a diversity, but as you go away from Bengaluru, the diversity is not there. Similarly, it is the same with all the metro cities. So when the diversity is not there, the traditions and these kalas will not travel. So that is why language is very important and we have to learn the languages. Now, if we see the taxonomy of language, next. National dispersion is only for Hindi and Urdu. Regional dispersion is for Bengali, Marathi and Tamil. Means these languages have got a little bit of more spread. Then spread out but concentrated in its core. Core means the area where it is born, like Gujarati, Uriya, Punjabi, Telugu, Malayalam, and Kannada. Limited to core is, which is only spoken in that particular core area, is Assamese, Kashmiri, Manipuri, Konkani. Then spread with no core, Sindhi, Nepali, and then other languages also there. According to UNESCO, a very recently published report, this Manipuri and Bodo language is about to get extinct. And I think in a recent few years back in a published article, it was also said that many of the languages spoken by our indigenous what they call tribes in Andaman Nicobar Islands has also been lost because it has not been scripted. Now, when you are not scripting or when you don't have the language as a script, you will also lose the tradition which has been followed by that community. So that is why language becomes very important and the emphasis has been given about the language in NEP. So now you can understand that how art and language is important. Because of the language only, these kalas which are hidden in various communities can come up and these kalas can get into these particular what they call education system, and the students can grow holistically as per his or her choice of kala, and then that kala can become a skill, and according to the skill that can become a profession. Are we really linguistically diverse? Not much, because as you can see, the big blue is for Hindi. I'm not saying that the scripts are not available in Hindi, but the regional traditions, which has to be mixed with all over the national diaspora, then it has to have the linguistic diversity. Then only we will be coming into that. I will recommend all the participants that they should see the webinar which was organized by IIT Kharagpur in November 2020 about Bharat Tirtha, where this Indian knowledge system has been very widely discussed. So you will understand that what is the importance of this language, the diversities and the kalas. Now further going now, we come to the topic of the day, that is the Indian knowledge system, Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. Now let me tell you very proudly, this Indian knowledge system cell has been created by All India Council of Technical Education, AICT, for the higher education institutes, so that to promote interdisciplinary research on all aspects of Indian knowledge systems, preserve and disseminate Indian knowledge system for further research and societal application, which we have already discussed. The mission for this particular IKS, or that is the Indian Knowledge System Cell, is to create a database. As I said, all these art forms which has been spread out throughout the country in various traditions, in various languages, has to be pooled at one place so a database can be created. And the research, teaching, publication and preservation of ancient and contemporary rich Indian knowledge system ranging from art, music, dance, drama to mathematics, astronomy, science, technology, life science, environment and natural sciences, healthcare, yoga, law, economics, social sciences, psychology, philosophy, management, linguistics, oral tradition, etc. can be preserved and conserved, and the work done can be shared with everyone. To create a portal for archival and dissemination of this rich knowledge, and also create an open portal and keep it dynamic and live like Wikipedia with the PPP model. To promote and enable further research to address the societal challenges, and to identify scholars and institutions who have worked in this IKS systems. Then continuing the mission to get reports of work done by all people who have contributed to IKS, that is Indian knowledge system, and bring out regular publications to promote research in IKS for providing proof of concepts, to create research fellowships or fellowships of visiting professors, scientists, scholars, Sanskrit professors in IITs, IISers, IIMs, universities, and professors of science and Technology in Sanskrit University to provide financial assistance to research activities, to suggest measures to integrate IKS in textbooks, so that from the beginning itself, the student comes to know that what are these kalas or what are these traditions which will benefit him or her to have a inner as well as outer development, and to establish IKS cell in general universities, Sanskrit universities, and other institutions under Ministry of Education to initiate collaboration, coordination between institutions under Ministry of Education, other ministries, departments, independent scholars, NGOs, and private institutions working in the field of IKS to promote interdisciplinary research involving modern streams and ancient Shastras, to explore and adopt a PPP model, to constitute expert groups and committee to plan, execute, and oversee the objectives of IKS division, to take up any step, work, project, or activity to further the cause of IKS, that is Indian Knowledge System. Now, this is very interesting. Many people say why it is required. Because, as I said, we lost what we had, and the global community had taken what we had, as it was told by Romain Rolland, a French philosopher. If there is one place on the face of the earth where all the dreams of living men have found a home, from the very earliest days when man began the dream of existence, it is India. We owe a lot to the Indians who taught us how to count, without which no worthwhile scientific discovery could have been made. Albert Einstein. Meanwhile, in Persia, Muslims came in contact with India. It was from Sanskrit writings that they acquired during the 8th century their first knowledge of astronomy. This was told by Nobel laureate Sir Bertrand Russell. Many of the advances in the sciences that we consider today to have been made in Europe were in fact made in India centuries ago. This is James Grant Duff, a very famous British historian. India is the cradle of the human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, and the great grandmother of tradition. Our most valuable and most constructive materials in the history of man are treasured up in India only. Mark Twain has said that. So, what is the way forward now? We have to have appreciation of Indian knowledge system, creating a repository, especially of lost archives for accurate characterization, pursuing evidence-based research into the foundation of the knowledge system, attempting revival of lost sciences, technology, developing a systematic and scientific way to study history of science and technology in ancient India, and bridging the gap between science and humanities, theoretical and action research, so that the student or the child entering the education system have got idea, creativity, vision, growth, development, inspiration, and process for the overall wellness of his or her development, physical, environmental, social, emotional, spiritual, and mental. And then he or she can contribute accordingly to the economy, to the society, for his self development, for the societal development, as well as for the development of the nation. So, this is how the IKS system is going to work. And I would like to share the references which I've taken for this particular session. And as I said earlier, I am also telling it again that Bharat Tirtha, International Webinar on Indian Knowledge System by IIT Kharagpur, was organized during November 2020. I will request all the participants to go through that particular webinar sessions. It is available in YouTube, so that you will come to know that what is required to be done in IKS and how the IKS is going. Why IIT Kharagpur? Because IIT Kharagpur has opened a department on Indian knowledge system, and they are also going to offer few courses in that. Thus, the IKS is aimed to fully revive the complete heritage and contribution of India's science and technology to that of the world, so that youth force of India, the students, shall surge with a spirit of all-around national confidence, which is commensurate with India's current national education policy. That's why we have been talking about these kalas, the language, the importance of language, the diversity and the importance of diversity of languages, and the Indian knowledge system cell, where we will be having pooling of all these traditions, so that we can grow with our tradition in a holistic manner to contribute to the society, to contribute to the nation, and to contribute to the humanity as a whole. Thank you so much. If the participants has got any doubt, yes, we have got that particular thing to discuss, in which we have just said about the one particular kala, in which I wanted that the participant should say what was that kala is all about. If anybody has to say, in chat box we can see. One student has from Sudha Majumdar to Sudha Majumdar had said that, ma'am, Gandhayukti means perfumes. I can see that from the what do you call the photographs itself, you can say this Gandha Mukti is perfume. Very true that it is a perfume only, but this kala is not only perfume. This is the aroma technique or the aromatherapy, which nowadays is a very famous thing and it has got a lot of potential in the market or in the modern era.